So tonight I would like to talk about Spirit of Eden, the album. I'm sorry, I would like to speak about Spirit of Eden, the album by Tok Tok. I talked about I Believe in You in another video, but I never made a proper video for this album. I don't know why, because I absolutely love it. I didn't know it. I discovered it in last October, I think. Yes, so it's going to make almost 1 year that I discovered it, and I wanted to listen to it again more deeply to see if I had the same feeling as at the beginning when I discovered it. And I even went back to read my review that I made on that I wrote on Amazon, to see if I had the same feeling, if I had to rectify it, and it's exactly the same. What I wrote then, I could have written it today, except that I discovered more things, because of course now I start really to know the album better, and I also read in this book how it was made, so it's interesting to know first which instruments were used, which console, which recorder, how the microphones were placed in the room, and what feeling they wanted to give in this album. And you know, I tried to make this video during the day, and I couldn't, because I think it's a subject that you can only speak about in the night. So maybe because it was recorded almost in the dark all the time, so it has a very night feeling. And I think that's the only moment I could talk about it. It was during the night. So if you want more details about this album and what Hollis wanted to convey in this album, I think first you should check Snow in Berlin, the website, because there are a lot of articles about this album, and it will give you absolutely the essential. I don't see how you can know better than on this website. Secondly, read the lyrics. Honestly, I read the lyrics. I don't understand all, and what I understand is not necessarily what Hollis wanted to say. So I'm going to tell you my feeling. It doesn't mean that I'm right. It doesn't mean that you must believe me, or that what I say it's exactly that. No, maybe I'm completely wrong. I have a very visual understanding about the songs, because as I paint, of course, when I listen to music, and when it's some music that I like, or that I love, and when the music is talking to me really by giving me images, it's exactly images that I see that I could maybe translate on a canvas or on something. For me, the best music is the music which evokes images, of course. I'm not going to talk about the lyrics, as I was saying. Before I continue, I want to say that my videos are about a quest regarding Hollis and Tok Tok music, in the aim to translate the songs, in art. I just want to make some paintings, and I'm considering sculpture, paper mache, mosaic, everything that I know how to do. Could be drawing, I don't know, anything that I will feel necessary to use as a medium, I will use. So that is the aim of my videos. My videos are not about talking about the Hollis' private life, or gossips, or about how Mark Hollis is dressed or things like that. I already said it before in other videos, but I say it again because a lot of people are asking me questions of this kind, and that is not my purpose. I'm not talking I don't represent Mark Hollis, okay? I don't know him. We are not writing to each other, we don't phone to each other, we don't send emails to each other, we don't send faxes or smoke signals or flying pigeons. I don't know. No. I just talk for myself, so what I say is not automatically true. It's my translation, my vision, it's personal to me. You may not be interested, and if you are searching for personal information about Mark Hollis, you are not going to find them here. I just want to tell you so you know. Okay, so I will continue on Spirit of Eden. That is the theme of this video. I wanted to say that I understood something more by listening to it. Not that it's incredibly clever. I suppose that a lot of people understood that before me. But I see that like the evolution of life. What I mean? So there are 6 songs. I can't make you listen to everything because I'm not supposed to. Anyway, you can find Spirit of Eden on YouTube, or you can even buy it. It's even better because I really suggest that you listen to it at home. It's much better. And in the calm and in the dark, that is the best way. So there are 6 songs, 6 pieces, I would say. And here is how I see it. The first one is named The Rainbow. So the rainbow, it can be the light, the colors after the rain. I have the feeling that this song is like an announcement, like a birth, like the beginning of life, or like hope, or like something which is renewed. I see something like that. Then I will explain more in detail. I will play it so you will understand better what I mean. The second one is Eden. Everybody needs somebody to live by. That's what he says in the song. So I see this song like the discovery of a person we are going to love, or the research of someone to love. That's how well, Eden, of course, we think paradise, Adam and Eve. So I think it's the beginning of love, something like that. That's what I understand. Not that I understand that by reading the lyrics. No. When I give you my translation, it's really about the music, what I feel in the music. Sometimes I don't even read the lyrics because I don't want my idea to be changed because of the lyrics. But sometimes it's very difficult to ignore the lyrics too, because the lyrics may be a big part of the song. But sometimes the music is so strong that even if he says blah 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 in the song, the music conveys so much that we don't even need the lyrics to understand something, which is very often my case. So then the third song is Desire. So desire is really love. I would say it's like the physical love. That's how I understand it. Well, the title is very clear, and when you read the lyrics, I think it's something like that, obviously. Then the fourth song is Inheritance. So inheritance, for me, it's children. So you see the evolution from the birth to having children. That's what I understand, once again. Then there is this song. The music is wonderful, but the lyrics are very important in this song. It's I Believe in You, and for me it's very about death, the death and the end of life, or the loss of someone. Well, I don't need to explain more. You just read the lyrics and you will understand. And the last one, it's Wealth. So the last one for me, it goes beyond the death. It's after the death. For me, it's a song about the paradise, the life after death. There is something very religious in it. It's like a gospel, I would say. That's how I feel it. Okay, I wanted to give you my translation of the evolution of the songs, but the reason why I love this album, it's chiefly because it reminds me my childhood. As Laughing Stock, actually, but here it's more before. I would say Laughing Stock, it's more 70s, mid 70s. This is more end of 60s, mid end of 60s. It's sooner. So I was younger, I was smaller, but this is something that I could have heard when I was a child, when I was very small. I'm not going to give you my age. We never ask the age of a woman. Anyway, I can tell you that I'm not 20 years old. I'm old enough to remember this. This didn't exist when I was a child, but it could have been. Every time I listen to this album, I am like if I was thrown back in my childhood. And every time I listen to that, it makes me cry. And the other day I thought, okay, I'm going to listen to it in the morning when I'm in a very bad mood. Usually in the morning I'm not very good. So I thought, oh, I'm going to listen to that. I'm going to see how I feel it when I'm in a very bad mood. So I put it on my iPhone, which is not really a very good quality to listen to music. In my bathroom, I was under the shower, listened to that, I started crying, like usually, as every time I listen to that, I'm crying. And then I went to my kitchen, I prepared the breakfast, I listened to that, crying again. And I started thinking, okay, now it's enough. I must understand why it is making me cry. Why I'm crying on this every time I listen to it. Why? So why? Because it reminds me the song of my childhood. Okay, so what's wrong with the songs of my childhood? Why am I crying? There was nothing sad at that period, at least for me. And then I thought, okay, I must think of the first thing which comes to my mind. Why does it make me cry? Why the music of the 60s makes me cry? And I thought, because there is something that I didn't finish when I was a child, and it was that period. I didn't have the time to achieve something. Wow, interesting. So well, interesting for me. I suppose you don't care at all about what I'm saying, but anyway, it was interesting for me because suddenly I realized that there was something unfinished for me in the 60s. And what it was, what I was doing in the 60s when I was such a young kid, listening to these things like, for example, A Whiter Shade of Pale, Procol Harum, The Rare Birds, Sympathy, that was maybe a little later, The Beatles, The Rolling Stones, the Pink Floyd, I think it was, no, the Pink Floyd, yes. Yeah, I was a very young child, but I was listening to that. I was listening to Johnny Rivers singing John Lee Hooker. I was listening to Creedence Clearwater Revival, and I was, yeah, that was maybe a little later. I was a very young child when I was listening to all these things. And you know what I was doing then? I was a child, I was not working. I was drawing and painting on the music already. And I think that the psychedelic, blues, jazz, rock music of that period was the perfect music to fit with my painting or my drawings. And then, little by little, we moved to the disco, and then the punk music, and then it was something else, but I didn't have the time to develop my art in this movement and this thing. And I was always regretting that. And I started thinking that maybe, and I'm not saying that I'm right, it's my own explanation. Maybe Mark Hollis did this album because he had something to finish with these years, 60s. Maybe he had something to accomplish, to create about that. And he continued with Laughing Stock, and with his solo album, he went even further, sooner in time, I would say. But you see, he managed to do it. He reached what he wanted to accomplish and to recreate. And that's why this music is talking to me, because he did what I didn't do, what I didn't have the time to do. I didn't finish what I was doing. That is probably why I've been painting about the Doors, about Jim Morrison, about Keith Moon. That is probably why I moved to Los Angeles. That is probably why I'm doing videos about Mark Hollis, because Mark Hollis is speaking my language. Actually, I'm speaking his, more exactly. So what he says talks to me and goes directly to my heart. And I understood all this thanks to that, to this music, this album that I recommend really, really sincerely. I love it. I really love it. Okay, so I'm going to play the album, not completely of course, but just I will tell you when it's necessary to tell you something. So for me, this is something like if it was announcing something, you know, like I'm not going to put it too loud because otherwise you are not going to hear what I'm saying. Not that what I'm saying is more important than the music, no, but I think it's better that you listen to the music without my voice on it. So you see, for me, I see someone in the forest or something with a horn or a saxophone. I'm not sure what the instrument is, but for me it announced something. It's like like if there is an exchange between two people talking to each other from far with the horn and with the saxophone or something like that, you know. I really like a hunt. You know, when people go to hunt, it's very typically, I imagine in England, people on horses with dogs and with the horn, but in more in more like at the beginning of Earth, or like the beginning of humanity or something like that. Well, it's very a mix of several things. I read on an article that someone was saying that it was like a mix of classical music and jazz, and I think it's a very, I don't remember, I think it's on Snow in Berlin that I read that. A very good, I would say it's not everything, but it's a very good vision of the thing. It's really a mix of classical and jazz in this music. So now the harmonica has a very blues feeling. So of course I see the United States, the emptiness of the States, and you hear the drums here like. For me, it's the sound of a train. It's a train through the US, through the emptiness. And the harmonica, it's an instrument, every time you use it, it's so typical of the blues that it's very difficult to imagine it by another way. I really like the sound of the drums, it's very warm. Listen to that, it's like classical music. It sounds so American, it's incredible. It's a mix of classical music and American roots music, you know. And now we are back in the forest, and again it's like someone calling someone else, and it's like if we are moving from one scene to the other, to another scene. You know, if I was doing a painting of this album or these songs, it would be very difficult to make a painting for each song because it's a whole thing. So it would be maybe a piece in several paintings, but it would be, each painting would be a part of the same thing, I think. Or maybe I would have to make a very big painting with the different scene. I don't know, but there is, everything is attached to each other, especially the three first songs are very, very together. I love the harmonica. My son was telling me that the harmonica and the banjo, it was two instruments that he didn't really like because it was so typical of a kind of music, but I love that. I know what it reminds me. You know, there is this film, they play notes and they are in contact with aliens. It's like a signal. It's like they call someone. It's like an exchange between two people talking, you know. What was this film? I don't remember. It's not something with E.T., but something like that. And listen to that. Look at this opening. So that is an opening. It could be an opening like a Pink Floyd opening, you know. And the train is starting again. Listen to this beauty. Everybody needs somebody to live by. That is typical of my of my childhood. I mean, this kind of guitars. I recognize the guitars of my childhood. It's very treated exactly the kind of guitars, electrical guitars that we could hear when I was a child. It's incredible. If I didn't know it was made by Hollis, I would swear that it's something from my childhood, except that it probably has more quality about the sound. It's more the sound of the end of 80s, of course. Listen to these guitars. I'm wondering what instrument is that. Phil Brown is talking about an instrument that they use, which I don't know. I'm not a musician. That is so typical of the end of 60s, beginning of 70s. There is a link. We hear the drums really in the background. And you know what, I have to listen to the music is not really the best. I used to have something much better in Paris, but unfortunately I don't hear. But it's not bad. So there is a link between each, the three first pieces, I think. They made a link like if it was coming from one to the other, like if it's a whole piece. That is very classical style. Flute. or the horn. I don't know. I don't know what instrument it is. Like, again, they are. So it comes from one thing to the other. It's like if the camera was turning and going to something else, you know. I see the music as an image or as images. I'm just like that, you know. So typical of the 60s, this. That is probably the hottest song I ever heard. Hot, yes. None of this like you. You know, it doesn't need much to make a hit. This song was a hit. It's not just. It's just that it's not treated that way. It was not treated that way, so we say it's not a hit. That is a hit for me. Such a good song. Listen to the Hammond organ. I love that. It's so typical of my childhood. You can't imagine it. For me, it's like going back in time, you know. I love this part. Oh, and the guitar, typical of that period. Wonderful. So listen to that. That is the true beauty, what is coming now. It's inheritance. So classical. Little jazzy. So you see, we were in the jazz and suddenly we are coming more in something more classical. So I would say this song is very typical of the whole album, with this mix of classical music and jazz style. That reminds me already the Marcolis solo album. There is really a link between the both. I love what the instrument is doing here. Listen to that. You see, he finishes like if it's not that, but it sounds like if he's asking a question, you know, like if we are waiting for something, and it's very classical, the end. So this one, I think you know, it's I Believe in You. It's probably the most commercial song of the album. By supposing we can call that commercial, I'm not sure. Anyway, it's a song that we remember really well. Such a beautiful, beautiful song. Enough and enough cruel. I just can't bring myself to see you stalling. Listen to that. Spirit. You know, if I was doing a painting of the album, this part would be probably the most difficult to represent without being... I'm not sure that it's possible to represent something like that. It's too much. The music speaks by itself already, I think. I think if I had to represent Spirit of Eden as a painting, I think that I would have to represent it more like a spirit, more like a feeling than like something that we must absolutely represent according to the lyrics or according to what Marcolis wanted to say in the song. I think it's more a spirit, yes, more a feeling, the impression it gives when we listen to it than really representing something really something real. I mean, it wouldn't be obvious to represent, you know, an album like that on a painting. Not so obvious. The jacket, very good, very good. I think it's a very good image for the album. The end is fabulous. And this is the last one, Wealth, that I would see that like a gospel music. For me it's really the representation of the end of 60s music. Listen to that. You hear the organ gives a very religious dimension. We feel like in a church. It's like a spiritual experience, this song. Listen to that. This part, for me, it's the religious version of a whiter shade of pale from the 60s, but even more beautiful, you know. It's listen to that. Pink Floyd. Take my freedom. Take my freedom. Take my freedom. Take my freedom. Listen to that. There is not much to say. It's so beautiful, you know. I feel like in a church here, in a church of the 60s. It's probably because of the organ and the melody. And listen to the end. You must listen to the end. It's almost the best part of the song. That is so beautiful what is made at the end. It's sorry for the noise. You know, when you listen to things like that, there is not much we can say on the top of that. You know, the Imai was upset, but honestly, when Mark Hollis says that 20 years sooner the company would haven't said one thing, I'm sure he's right, because honestly, when Procol Harum came with the whiter shade of pale, I think the companies were very happy. When Pink Floyd came with what they were doing, I don't know what the companies were thinking about it, but the records were released, and we know the Pink Floyd now, we know what it is. So it's really a matter of time, probably. You know, Imai should be honored to distribute such a beauty. I would say that we couldn't honor better the 60s, the music of the 60s on this album. That's why I'm wearing tonight something, a tunic, which is from the 60s. It's an original one. It was not mine, I was a child then, but I know it's from the 60s. And this ring, which was made by an artist in the 60s. My mother bought it and wore it, and she gave it to me, and I'm wearing it now. You see, there are things which last forever, and I think that the 60s music lasts forever. Mark Hollis understood that, he honored it, and now it's Hollis and Tok Tok, who are going to last forever. I hope so, really. I hope so, because he gave us such a beautiful music, and I really hope he still will give us more.